Hi everybody, this is Kevin and I'm on another Zoom chat, and today I'm chatting with the lovely Dave Ford. Hi Dave, how are you?
Hello, Kevin. Fine. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not bad, I'm not bad. I've been on a walk today and I'm late because we're supposed to have started at midday, but I was soaked. So I had to get all my
Uh,
wet, I had wet weather gear on, but it was just running, it was so heavy, it's just running down the neck and I just got wet. But anyway.
I don't believe it. The sun. It's always sunny in Midhurst. I was always told.
Yeah, yeah. It was actually trying to come through earlier on as I was walking, but no, it disappeared.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Dave, on these Zoom chats, I know you've seen some of the ones I've done, but what I always try and do, as I say, is try and find out about the person behind the name. So Dave,
Oh dear.
let's go right back to the beginning of Dave Ford. Where was Dave born? And tell us a little bit about your childhood and perhaps a bit about your parents as well.
Okie doke. Well, I'm a Sussex boy, born and bred. I was born in Chichester at St Richard's. I expect you'll know quite well.
Yeah,
And first few months I lived at Cocking, and then my family moved to Midhurst, your town.
My town, yeah.
Yeah, my dad, he was the dentist all his working life at Petworth, which, as you know, is not too far from Midhurst. Spent my first 8 years Midhurst, and then the family moved to Graffham, a little village about, 4 or 5 miles away from Midhurst, something like that.
Yeah.
Went to school at Hazelmere Heights, which I think you did a video there not that long ago. It's now derelict.
It is, yeah, which was quite a shock. I knew it had closed down, but I didn't realise in what condition it was in.
Yeah, such a shame. It was a lovely school. And then when I was 12, I had quite a major change. I was packed off to boarding school in Edinburgh.
Oh, right.
My dad was Scottish and he'd been there, so that was the link for that. Quite tough because, 400 miles away from home, never been away from home in my life, and I was English and they were all Scottish, and but, I survived. It was very good. For some reason, I still don't know why, I was sent off when I was 12 rather than 13. And although it was a Scottish school, they did English exams. You did your A-levels when you're 18 and your O-levels. Well, normally you do your O-levels when you were 16. But this school, they wanted you to do things called Scottish Highers, which is sort of halfway between an O-level and an A-level. And used to do them at 17. To allow them to do that, they used to do their O-levels at 15. Hope you're following all this.
Yeah, just
but
about.
Because I went at 12, and then I did all my O-levels when I was 14, so it was tough, but I managed to get through it. And just about a year before I took my A-levels, when I was 16, I applied for a job with Midland Bank. I was hoping to get onto their graduate scheme, but I didn't get through. But I was still offered a job. So although I took my A-levels, I didn't really need them. Came back down south and started off with Midland Bank, and I was there with them for man and boy for 37 years. My first branch, incidentally, was Hazelmere.
Oh, was it?
Which again,
right.
You filmed there not that long ago.
That's
and
right.
I think that's derelict now as well.
Yeah, there's a link here. There's a link here somewhere, Dave, between
There
you.
is, yeah.
Derelict.
Yeah, and as I stayed with them all my working life. I worked my way up. I was branch manager at Stenning, Storrington. I was a number 2 at Bognor, and I was a number 2 at Salisbury. And that's when I moved with my wife from Sussex to where I live now, which is on the Dorset, Hampshire border. Had about 4 years as an agricultural banking manager as well, which is quite interesting. And I was 55 when I was given a redundancy package, and I took it very quickly. It's a shame, really. I mean, I love working for the bank, but it changed. Funny, I was reading an article in today's Daily Mail how banking has changed. When I was a branch manager at Stenning and Storrington, for example, it really was the old-fashioned type of Captain Mannering bank manager. I knew all my customers. I made all the decisions. And in those days, all the checks were written out, and before they went off at night at processing, I would look. I knew all my customers and who their customers were. But towards the end, it was a different world, Kevin. You know, everything was done by computer. I couldn't make any decisions, and the shareholder suddenly became more important than the customer. But there we go. It gave me a good standard of living. I can't complain, but it did change. And so, yeah, I mean, well, I say semi-retired for 5 years, but I had done a bit of exam invigilating at Southampton University, but of course that's stopped now with the so that was kind of background work-wise. One thing I should point out, when I was at school, that's when I sort of started my athletics career, and I was a 200-meter runner. I got bronze medal at the Scottish schools in '79. And when I came down south, I joined a club at Bognor. Again, that club doesn't exist anymore. You're right, there is a definite trend. So I sort of ran with them, but I wanted to run for Scotland. I had this ambition, and I wasn't going to get seen down running in the Southern League. So I moved clubs back to Edinburgh and ran for them for 4 years in the British League. Never quite made it. The nearest I got to a Scottish vest, I was 4th in the 1985 Scottish 400-meter finals, and there was a possibility I might have got picked for the relay, but they picked a hurdler instead, who had a better time. Not that I'm bitter about it in any way. But yeah, they were a good time. And whilst I was at Bognor, I met up with a fellow athlete who lived at a nearby village at Bury, a chap called Mark Rowland. You might have heard of him.
That name rings a bell.
Well, we trained together, obviously at Bognor, but also at Seaford College, which is sort of equidistant between the two. Mark then left Bognor. He joined Brighton Phoenix, which Steve Ovett had just started. Anyway, cut a long story short, Mark went on to get the bronze medal at the 1988 Olympics. And so, but the two of us, had trained together. And through his connection with Phoenix, I used to pop down to train with them, with Steve Ovett and his crew. So they were really good times. In fact, I was looking at back in the old training diary. You used to keep a training diary with all your stuff and what have you. And this is going back to 1983. So it was a British League fixture at Quimbran. And I was looking at the 100 metres, won by a certain Linford Christie, and third place, Daly. I wonder whatever happened to those two.
They certainly didn't make the grade. No.
But so when I suppose it was quite hard because you're working, 9 to 5 in the bank and then training every evening as well. It was quite tough, and it got to the stage in my mid-20s when it was clear I wasn't going to sort of completely make the grade. But there was one lovely, I suppose my best result was I won a race. It was an international meeting in Wrocław in Poland. Okay, I was representing a south of England side. There were teams from America and Sweden and Czechoslovakia and Poland, what have you. And so I won the race. It was a very prestigious meeting, but I was very lucky. My race, the rest of the athletes were quite rubbish. When I came back, in those days, there weren't things like the internet or mobile phones, so the news of it just didn't appear anywhere. And all my fellow athletes said, well, how'd you get on? I said, well, yeah, I won. No one would believe me. I said, no, I was given this trophy, and it's here. I don't know if you can see that coming through. It's sort of a glass. There's nothing written on it. I think it's something to do with the area in Wrocław in Poland is very famous for coloured glass, and that's why they gave it as a prize. But when I showed this to all my friends, oh, yeah, you could have bought that. How am I going to prove that I won this? I know what. I managed to get a chap to take a photograph of me on the medal podium. I'll wait until it gets processed, because in those days it takes 3 days to process it. Film came back, nothing on there. Apparently, when I'd gone through customs in Warsaw, I must have put the camera through the X-ray machine and lost.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, and it never appeared in any of the Athletics Weekly papers or anything. 3 weeks later, through the post, I had a photograph from someone else that had been at the meeting, thinking, well, it was a picture of the medal ceremony with me on top. The chap said, would you like it? Oh, yes, please. The next night I was at training. There it is. Proof. These days it would never happen. You'd know about it within seconds. It would be around the world on Facebook.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I had potentially a similar sort of thing with athletics. I never got to the standard that you did. But when I left school in '69, it was the day before I left school. I came home, and sitting indoors was my mum and dad. Well, my dad never got home from work until about 5:30, 5:45. And there was a man called Mr. Clark, who was an insurance agent. And he was on the committee at the Border Athletics Club in Hazelmere. And my event was the old 440 yards and 400 meters nowadays. And because my levels was reasonably high, Border Athletics Club wanted me to go and train with them, to stay at school, train with them, and then see how far they could progress me with the athletics. But because I knew that my dad earned very, very little money, it was piecework, I said, no, I don't think I will, because I need to help my family. My dad doesn't earn much money. So I then left school with an apprenticeship of, in the old currency, £4.04 a week for 5.5 days a week. But I do, and I do know my parents said to me that if I'd have decided to go for the athletics, they would have done everything they possibly could to make sure that I'd have achieved as far as I could have got. But I decided not to do it, which in hindsight I do regret, really.
But did you say Border in '69? So would you have known a chap called Martin Bilham?
Knew Martin very well. Knew Martin.
He was my coach.
Oh, was he?
He was my coach.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah, he coached me. He was. I think he was a Midhurst lad, wasn't he?
He was. Yeah.
Yeah, and he got a bronze. He got a bronze medal at the 1970 Commonwealth Games in the relay for England.
That's right.
Yeah, he coached me and Mark Rowland at Ogner, and lovely chap.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, Martin's brother Keith Bilham was very good at the triple jump, and Keith and I were at school together the same year.
I didn't know him, but wow, what a small world.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I often think about it, and how far could I have got? Could I have got to international level? My times were pretty good. I did run once in a schools championship down at Brighton, and I'd only ever run on grass. And down at Brighton, it was cinders. Well, I just had ordinary shoes. So it was all these athletes in spikes and everything else. So I had to borrow a pair of spikes. I was drawn in lane 2, I think it was, which was my favourite lane.
Yeah.
I thought, this is fine. I'm going to do well in this race, because all the other athletes, I'd beaten them virtually every race. Apart from one person, one guy, I'd never run against him before. And it turned out he won the race. And the others, I came 6th. And all the guys when we got to the end of the race, they went, what was the matter with you today? You usually beat us easy. I said, I couldn't run on the cinders. I didn't know what I was doing. And I'd never used a starting block position before.
You're showing your age, Kevin. Cinders, God.
I know.
I'm from the tartan track era.
So, Dave, tell me, after you finished with your bank, were you involved? I know you, and people can see behind you, got rosettes and things up that are framed up on a wall.
Yeah.
With your dogs, when did you get involved with your lovely dogs? And
the dogs, okay.
The whippets.
Yeah, I bought my first whippet about 11 years ago. Um, just looking for a dog that was sporty, that was clean, not too big, and that seemed to fit the bill.
Hmm.
And that was a dog called Woody, and I had a lot of fun with him. Did a little bit of dog showing, but he was more into whippet racing and lure coursing. He did get a third place at Crufts in 2014, I think it was, in a special class for whippets that also coursed. He's no longer with us. He passed away a couple of years ago. And we've since had two whippets since, Monty, who's 6, and Logan, who's 5. Both of them do a bit of showing.
The famous Logan.
Logan, yeah. But one thing that's slightly unusual, it was mainly my wife started off, and I do a little bit as well. We do competitive obedience with them, which is, they're not your ideal breed of dog to do obedience. The attention span of a whippet can be measured in seconds rather than minutes. But we've done very well. I mean, for example, Monty, where are we? We're 2000. Last year, just before lockdown at Crufts, he made it all the way to a final of this thing called the Kennel Club Good Citizen Special Pre-Beginners Final. He was the first whippet ever to make the final, and it's been going for about 60. Yeah, he won the semi-final at Our Dogs in London, and he won 3 qualifying. So he's a lovely dog. Logan, he's a little bit further behind. He has the disadvantage of having me as a handler rather than my wife does. But even so, he came 8th in a semi-final, and so hopefully we'll be able to continue. I mean, that's why I don't really want to talk about COVID, but one of the problems with lockdown is that they haven't done anything competitive-wise for well over a year. But hopefully there might be something later on this year. But so well, because Logan, through the videos, he's become a bit of a star through that. But that's something that, well, I suppose you and I got to know each other through doing video walks, didn't we?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Both have similar channels, started roughly about the same time, and we do a similar thing. But whereas you use Cynthia,
yeah.
I use Logan as my side.
Yeah, well, I've got Cynthia and Steve on board now, which is great. And again, lockdown has stopped us going out on our walks and things like that. So, which is, and we do Zoom chats twice a week now, just to keep trying to come up with ideas and different things like that. But yeah, so Steve loves the research side of things. With my videos, as you know, I don't try and give too much information. I just try and give enough. And then with the videos that I make, I just try and tell people what I'm seeing as I'm going, like an old church.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, they're great.
Yeah. For me, that it sort of works. But unfortunately, I'm a long way behind your subscriptions. You've got about 700 or 800. I've got about 200. So
I think it's just gone to 800. Yeah, I think I've tried to remember when I started. I think it's been going about 18 months now, and it's like a lot of these things. I think the more videos that you do, the more likely you're going to be seen.
Yeah.
And certainly, I think it took probably 5 months to get 100 subscribers, and now, well, it's growing 3 or 4 a day. I think I've got some of the 85 videos out there, and the more you've got out there, I think you're more likely to be seen. And once someone sees you, they'll hopefully join you. But yeah, we do have a similar setup, don't we? Because we both produce a weekly video.
Try to, yeah.
I mean, what I did with mine are very much countryside videos. Me and my dog come out with me, walk with me, very relaxed. It's more about the walk than me, and hopefully come across some interesting things along the way. I kind of felt during the summer that there might be another lockdown, so I deliberately was filming 2 or 3 videos a week. By the end of October, I think I'd got enough done, scheduled, ready through to April. So that meant I could basically take December, January and February off.
Yeah.
I wanted to do that anyway because the type of walks I do, similar to yourself, they look better in the summer anyway, with the leaves on the trees, blue skies, sunshine, no mud. And also it's easier to film. I mean, as you know, I think you've had a GoPro in the past. They're not great in bad light in the winter. And so I thought, well, I'll take 3 months off. Having said that, I'm probably doing what Steve does. I've spent a lot of the time doing the research. I'm just looking up on the wall now. I think I've got 30 walks ready to do, and I've done the research. Because, it does take a long time. I reckon it takes me 3, sometimes 4 hours to do the research, because it's a bit more than just looking up on Wikipedia. If you I'll get the map out. If I know there's a church, I've got to check the church website, look up swipe map, that sort of thing. I've got books and things, and my sort of, I don't want it to be too much of a documentary, but there's if I'm going to give the information, I'll see if I can give it right. But I've got a degree in being vague. I don't know about you. When you're doing research, particularly churches, you can look at 3 different sources. Say a tower. One might say it was built in 1870. The next one says 1872, and the next one 1874. So, but when it comes to filming, I say, well, here's the tower built in the early 1870s.
That's it. Yeah, that's the best way of dealing with it. That's the best way of dealing with it. Yeah, it's difficult.
It's looking at the audience really, where the type of audience I get. There's the type of person, because I concentrate on the New Forest and Hampshire. So you get a lot of views from people that perhaps going on holiday to the New Forest. They want some ideas of walks, of where to go. And certainly during the summer, some of the popular walks at Brockenhurst and Sway, they'll be getting 4 or 5 views a day just by people looking those up. Yeah. You get a lot of views from abroad, actually, America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. A lot of people love to see thatched cottages and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then finally, the other aspect is those people that are interested in churches or canals or disused railways, because a lot of my videos feature those, and so you get a lot of sort of feedback there. But from my point of view, it's just it's a hobby. It's something I enjoy. It keeps me off the streets, and I've enjoyed. It's a bit like you. I remember you saying you've enjoyed learning all about editing, because we're probably both the same. Neither of us had a background in filming or presenting, and it's been quite good fun just learning about everything. I mean, I still make loads of mistakes, believe me.
Oh, so I'm the same, Dave. I'm the same. I've been doing this sort of vlogging lark now for probably about 3 years. All right. Had the YouTube channel probably, I don't know, 18 months, 2 years. And yeah, you're right. I had no background in presenting and editing and stuff like that. And I make loads of mistakes. But I think the video that I've just put up onto my channel is the best one I've done. I've had a couple of
the polo one.
Yeah. A couple of people have messaged me privately and said that they felt it's the best one I've done, because I was able, very kindly, I contacted somebody else who's got a YouTube channel, and she let me use some of the old film that she'd used. And it seemed to work very well together, so I was pleased about that. But yeah, it's difficult. The trouble is, my biggest problem is retaining the information. Steve can give me all the information in the world, and I'll read up on it, and by the time we go out and do a film, I've forgotten it. So we tend to, Steve sends the information to Cynthia, she puts it together onto A5 or whatever it is, the smaller bits onto a clipboard. And then, sometimes she has to stand and hold it, but the print has to be quite big, so I have to wear my glasses otherwise. And so one thing is just, you just think, but I just love doing it. I love getting out there and just filming, it's just great.
I'm exactly the same, Kevin. I tend to, I make notes. I've got about 3 or 4 sheets, dates, little paragraphs as prompts. But there's so much to filming. I mean, I'll give you an example, something that I do. Once you get a word in your head, it's sometimes difficult to get it out. I remember I used the word gorgeous about 6 times on one video. So what I do now is just before I start filming, I've got this bit of paper and it's about 15 words that all mean exactly the same thing. Lovely, gorgeous, exquisite, awesome, beautiful, pretty, so that you can use and always tick one off rather than use the same word at the same time. But again, that's natural. But there's so much, as you know, you've got to think about while you're filming. Where's the sun? Where's the shadow? Is there any grease on the screen? Am I breathing too heavily?
You said just now about the fact that it's difficult to film and the light's bad and stuff. But my most successful video was after Storm Dennis came through. Was it early last year?
Oh yeah.
And that had, I think it's had something like 600 or 700 views, and that was in rain, storm, everything. So something what I did there was just click with everybody. So it was very odd, really.
I think you've got a very natural style and a very calm style, very easy to listen to, and I think that a lot of people quite enjoy that. There's a lot of brashness and silliness around. I think you can have a sense of humour as well, which comes through with you. But I think that's where people enjoy watching your films. There,
it's like the one I did, a little snippet, a two-minute one from a video I did last year, where again it was chucking it down with rain, and I had a poncho on, and I stopped by the grandstand at Cowdrey Polo Fields, and so I'm filming in this rain. I was on about the torrential rain, and the wind got underneath the poncho, and it was lifting it up like a balloon. What you couldn't see from the film was me with my free hand trying to grab hold of the poncho to pull it down, and in the end I was just covered. And then the next clip is me running down through the trees, throwing my hat and throwing my cape off because I was so frustrated with it. But
I think people quite like to see things like that, actually. They like to see when things go wrong, all those little snippets, and then they can comment on them. There
was a video that I put out and Steve, Cynthia and I were up at Newlands Corner near Guildford. And we did a long walk round the silent pool up to St Martha's Church. And we're going down this really steep incline, and it was quite slippery. And Steve was in front of me, and he had his walking pole, and all of a sudden he lifted his pole up, and he turned slightly and went, "Didn't we do well?" And it was just something, I had to leave it in because and he went, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't." But little bits like that, it's great. You just leave them in. It just makes the film.
But certainly. I mean, looking ahead, I think that my plan is to continue. I'm sort of running out of the ones in the New Forest now. I think I've done about 60 or so of those. So I'm doing more in Hampshire, a few more in Dorset, and the odd one in Sussex. I've done a couple there, and see how they go. But the views. It's funny when you mention subscribers, though, because I look at other people's channels and see they've got a lot of subscribers. You would think they would have more views. So although it's nice to have lots of subscribers because it makes it easier to market to them, I think it's also important for the things like the watch time as well. That's very, very interesting to look at those figures. Most of the stuff I do, they usually get about 500 or 600 views, and then some of them will creep up to 1,000. I think about 25 of them have had 1,000 views now, and that amazes me that there are that many people out there that enjoy watching them. But that's what encourages you to carry on.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And it's something I do find frustrating is when you see you see, you know how many subscribers you've got, and then you put a video out that seems quite liked by people, and might get 100, you know, in my case 150 views, but you get about 20 likes, and you think, well, hang on a minute, did you enjoy the film or didn't you? You know, it's
Yeah, well, I do a lot of marketing through Facebook using some Facebook groups. So say I do a film and it includes a disused railway, then I'm a member of a disused railway. So what you can't do is just shove the link on, because the admin won't like it. But if you put a whole load of photographs on and a little bit of the story and then the link at the bottom, they're happy with that, because that tends to, then people will be forced from Facebook through to YouTube, so they won't necessarily be linked onto YouTube when they watch it. So that sometimes can beat the like for it. But I was fascinated with the watch time, without getting too technical for viewers, that you can tell what's the average length that someone watches your video for. And my typical videos are normally 20 minutes, and the retention rate for the channel is about 50%. In other words, average viewing time is 10 minutes. Well, I did one video as purely as a I want to see how it goes, a virtual walk. So there's no commentary, no music, it's just me behind the camera walking along as if you're doing it. Lovely views, but the retention was about 16%. It was like a 29-minute video, but people were switching off after about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's because it's the type of video that you have to want to watch. If you want to sit, I want to relax for 30 minutes, I'll watch this. I'm going to get on my cycle machine and watch this video while I'm doing it. It wasn't the type of video where, oh, Dave's done a video for a walk, let's sit down and watch type thing.
Yeah.
So I learnt my lesson there.
Yeah. You tend to. It can be. It's so enjoyable to do, but it can also be very frustrating.
Yeah. Some videos I think will do well, don't, and others which I think, oh, that was a load of rubbish. And suddenly, often it helps, and sometimes, it just needs 1 or 2 people to watch it, and they spread to their friends, and suddenly you notice a big spike.
Yeah, with my subscribers, I seem to bubble along at the same number for a few weeks. Then suddenly I lose 2 or 3 subscribers, and then a few weeks later I go back up again. But it stays at that same sort of level. But it doesn't seem to go up very quickly. But I always said if I got 50 subscribers, I'll be very happy. I think I'm on 248 or something now. But the thing is, the other thing about because we can't get out doing the walks, I'm now doing these Zoom chats to fill in any gaps. But I've thoroughly enjoyed doing these chats to find out more about people. Yeah.
Well, you're digging away at my background. I won't tell you about the time in prison or.
No, we'll avoid that. We'll avoid that one, Dave. I think we'll avoid that. Well, look, Dave, we've done nearly. Hang on, I'm trying to see. Half an hour or so.
My goodness, must be lunchtime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, definitely. Look, Dave, Sorry, go on.
Yeah, nice. I've enjoyed it. Yeah.
They are good fun. They're just, people call them interviews. I don't. I just call them a chat between friends, and and it's just lovely because you can chat away. And I always say, if I can get 10 or 15 minutes or longer, brilliant. So that's what, Dave. Look.
Yeah, no, we must meet up sometime because I still come back to Midhurst. My mum still lives there, and I still come back twice for the dentist, that sort of thing. So when lockdown's over, maybe we'll have to do a joint video together.
Love to, Dave. That'd be great. I'd love to. Dave, thanks very much for your time today. Really appreciate it. Take care of yourself and stay safe, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Lovely. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks, Kevin.
Cheers, Dave.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.